Hi there, this is Amy Behimer, today's guest on the Dr. Eleanor Stein podcast. And I'm so excited you're here and you are about to get an inside look at the 6 reasons that goals fail. And we're going to talk about how to overcome each and every one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Ellie Stein, welcoming you to the Dr. Eleanor Stein podcast. We all have goals in life, and those of us with complex chronic diseases have a lot of goals, things that we want to enact that we hope are going to make us feel better or even to heal. Many of us struggle to implement goals, or sometimes we're not even sure what goals to strive towards. So if that sounds like you, keep listening. My special guest today is Dr. Amy Behimer. She's a pharmacist and also a national board certified health and wellness coach. She hosts a show called the Autoimmune Health Secrets podcast because she herself lives with an autoimmune disease, and she helps people translate knowledge into habits that actually stick. She guides her clients to follow through with simple, sustainable habits that help them feel and function better. I love having people on the show who have walked the walk, and Amy is definitely one of those people. So, Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm still walking the walk.
It's lifelong, right?
It sure is. Yeah, it's never ending. And if we can enjoy it, and that can be a good thing.
Yeah. I usually ask my guests if they have some lived experience to kind of start with that. It really gives the listeners a sense that you understand what they're going through. So, as much as you're comfortable, would you mind sharing a little bit about your own health journey?
Absolutely. I first heard the word autoimmune when I was 17, and I was diagnosed with a skin autoimmune condition. It's called vitiligo, in case anybody listening happens to have that one. And several years later, I was in pharmacy school, and I started learning so much about the human body, what can go right, what can go wrong. And this autoimmune word came up, and I thought, oh gosh, I have one of those. And I was learning that they tend to cluster and there could be more. And yeah, it kind of started down this path of I got a second diagnosis when I was 25, one in my thyroid. And at 27, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so for me, and if anybody's listening, it was a diagnosis that just shook my life. It really felt like there was a before and after. And yeah, I was in a state of just fear and impending doom. And so it really felt like it was in the way of me having a healthy and happy life. And looking back, you can say, okay, this was a moment that changed everything. And 15 years later, you really can start to see how it makes sense. But I can relate to anybody who is out there and maybe feels that, maybe has some sort of cloud over their health or their happiness. Um, and and that there is a way out of that.
Right. A message of hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, can you share? So I'm guessing as you were going through school, if you're anything like me, because I also became ill during my residency. And so I was kind of on parallel paths. I was on the one hand trying to learn all of this kind of conventional psychiatry material. And on the other hand, I was trying to figure out what was going on with myself. And that led to a transition. I worked in psychiatry for 35 years, but maybe not in the most conventional way. In your case, though, you made a real transition. I think you still work as a pharmacist, yes, but now you've added this health coaching to what you offer.
Exactly. Yeah. When I was diagnosed, I hadn't um, yet heard the word functional medicine or lifestyle medicine or anything
Mhm.
like that. And I, value conventional medicine so much for what it can give us. I think too often people pit them against each other. You see people in the more natural space say they're treating their diagnosis naturally. And sometimes they do that at all costs. They do a blanket statement and without really weighing the benefits and the risks. And then you see sometimes in conventional medicine, people will discount what lifestyle medicine can do. the worst is when somebody comes to work with me and they said, well, my doctor said my diet doesn't really matter. And that can be so destructive as well. And so yeah, I know I really want to be a voice as well as a living evidence that there can be a synergy and really, um, you know, ensuring we're making those decisions based on good knowledge and not just what we're reading online and out of fear. Um, but yeah, when I wanted to figure out what was going on with me, I did choose to take the disease modifying therapy is what they're called in the autoimmune world, where there's some good evidence, some research trials that show this gives us a good chance at possibly slowing progression and preventing future problems with the disease. And so I chose to take that. I call that my defense. And when I was exploring, okay, but what's my offense going to be? What am I going to do the other 360 days of the year when I'm not, interacting with the conventional medicine side of things? And so that became my lifestyle, that became my habits. And when I decided, okay, I'm going to go back and dig in and learn to help other people, it became so obvious that I wanted to walk with them through it and help them figure out why the things they knew would help them feel better, that they wanted to do anyway, just felt so hard to do. I mean, the statistics on um, the desire of people as well as their ability to follow through on their habits or goals, it's really alarming. And if you're listening, you probably have experienced that if you're human. Very few people are naturally good at deciding, okay, I'm going to make this change and I'm going to do it. And so I became fascinated by the 95% of people that aren't like that. And that's really where all of my attention and effort went, is to figure out how to speak to and help people that it may not come naturally.
Did I hear you? You just kind of threw that in. 95% of people, what, have difficulty or are totally unable to achieve their goals? What's that? What does that
Yep.
number refer to?
This is a softer, there are all sorts of different personality profiles. There's one that's pretty big that I just love to reference. And so when we say, it's used by many and it really helps people be identified. This isn't like we can find an exact study to ever measure this, but there's this idea that an upholder is a type of personality that you are able to set goals for yourself and meet them pretty easily. And that is somewhere in the 5 to 10% of people, of the millions who have taken it, fall into that category where they look around and they're like, well, if if food is going to help you feel better, why are you not just doing it? And I actually am an upholder, which is interesting. So it's also a part of my story where when I got that diagnosis and I decided, okay, I'm going to eat quote unquote perfect, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to check these boxes, I mastered what someone would look from the outside as, wow, she is doing the healthy things. But I was neglecting something huge, which was my mindset, which was what was driving me to do those. How was I thinking and feeling throughout that? And so that was the next turning point, was really understanding that, wow, I can actually shift how I think and how I feel, not only what I do, and I can use the same habit building strategies to do it. Because thinking of our thoughts and our feelings as habits, as things that our brain want to go to and our bodies get comfortable in certain feelings, it's super useful because all of a sudden it's not just, oh, this is what I think or this is how I feel. It's, oh, I have a habit of thinking this, or I have a habit of feeling doom or worry. And then it removes us from it a little bit and we're like, okay, cool. Let's use these strategies to change habits, to change not only our outer ones, but those inner ones too.
Wow, I mean, even some of the language you're using, Amy, is similar to what I've also come to believe, but you've actually done training in it. So I'm going to be really listening hard for what else you're going to suggest. Can you maybe the next logical step would be for the 95%? So that's obviously going to be the majority of people listening right now.
Yep.
What gets in the way? What are there some common pitfalls or common, I don't know, obstacles that prevent people from just easily saying, "Oh, I'm going to change my diet," and then doing it?
Yes. And you'll hear me, throughout this, frameworks are so useful because
Mhm.
the research on why change feels hard. So, not just healthy change, but why organizations struggle to change. And just people have this narrative that, oh, change is hard. One of the top reasons is that we often don't have a framework to help everything make sense. So, when I'm speaking throughout this, you'll hear me kind of reference frameworks, and it's really for us to be able to file away in our brain a place where you know where to go to retrieve it to use it. Frameworks that are holistic, that
Filing cabinet.
a filing cabinet, that's how I think of it. It's memorable. It makes it more likely that we're gonna use it because we learn it in a way, and I try to teach it in a way that makes sense so that we can keep coming back to it even when we hit roadblocks. So, when you ask that question, there's a framework, a few frameworks. I'm trying to pick the best one to start with, and the one I'm thinking is maybe recognizing that there are 6 main reasons that a goal could fail.
Mm,
And
okay.
so we could take our time and go through those 6 reasons, because if we know ahead of time that or why something's gonna fail, and we feel confident that we have strategies to get around it, then our confidence starts to go up. And it's also helpful because if you're listening, I could say, "All right, think of the last thing that you wanted to change, the last habit that you wanted to make or break." And as we go through these 6 reasons, then how helpful it is to, "Oh, okay, which one was it?"
Mm,
And maybe that could be a good way to take this.
okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you be the guide. So
Okay, number 1 is we don't set the goal. A reason that we don't reach our goal is that it's never set. I mean, how many times do we want these things, but have we said it out loud? Have we written it down? Have we decided that this is a goal I want to go towards?
is that at all related to SMART goals? Like I teach, okay, if you say you want to eat better, that's not very specific. Is that kind of what you mean about we didn't really set the goal clearly enough?
That actually will come up a little bit later in the reason.
Oh, okay.
This one is just the idea that sometimes people don't even take the scary step to make it real that this is a goal, even if it's to, I want to feel better. I want to have more energy, because they may have history. You may have history of, well, I tried that, but I didn't follow through. And so they may not be in the habit of always having something that they're working towards. Or maybe they associate goals with burnout or
Mm,
with things, more work versus how do we use a goal to our advantage to give us something that we're working towards so that we can really start to problem solve how we're actually going to get there. Because if we don't know where we're heading, then it's kind of difficult to know how to get there. So it's just
mm,
if we're walking around, if you ask people, God, what's your goal right now? What's your health goal? Very few people, um, I guess it depends what circles you run in, but
mm.
often people are like,
The people listening might, many of them will have goals, but go ahead.
good,
Yeah.
good, okay, what's your health goal? Okay, we'll say health goal then.
Okay.
Yeah, and even if it starts with you wanna feel better, or you want to have more energy, or you wanna eat better, that's a great starting point because the next reasons we'll flesh out and we'll make the goal a good goal. We'll make it better, but the first thing is kind of committing to, "What if I always had a goal that I was working towards?"
Mm. Is that something you recommend? Or is it better to kind of work towards a goal and then draw back and kind of rest for a while and then I don't know, to prevent goal burnout?
That would be, a great chance to see, well, what do I think about goals? So sometimes my goal will be to pull back on something, but it's
Mm,
still a goal. You know
okay, got it. Or something you're
Uh,
consciously, so what's your definition of goal?
I don't know if I've ever you want, a desire, something that you
Explicit, like you've thought of it, you've maybe said it, maybe you've written it down.
Yeah, or sometimes I heard this once years ago and I've never forgotten it of like it's planning a party that you want to go to. Like, what is something in your future that you want to be moving towards?
Okay.
So that would be a simple definition of a goal. So the reason number two is we forget it.
So sorry, I'm just laughing. That is so classic.
There's
I'll go back into diaries and I'll go, oh, I already had that goal 7 times in the past 10 years. Yeah.
Yes. So this is, our brains are processors. They're not storage containers, but we expect them to behave like storage containers. And so this is where systems, James Clear is a habit expert who wrote Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And I love bringing him into any conversation because everybody smiles and most listeners have probably read it. I mean, it's been on the New York Times bestseller for a reason. And so, but he says, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so reminding ourselves, you know, I have this strategy playbook. And so there's 20 different strategies which we'll be talking about, but one of them is reminders and it can be
Mhm.
visual, it can be technological, it can be the support system that you enact with accountability, but we've got to have a system so that we are able to not just say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Because that's what we've kind of done. We've trained our brain in the past, most likely, that when you set a goal, Amy, this is like my negative brain talking to me. Oh, she'll forget it. You'll forget about it. Don't worry. Okay,
It'll be fine. We don't have to really gear up
totally,
for that one. Yeah.
totally. So the the tracker that I use and share with my clients, it is designed for, to overcome all these reasons. And there's a section on that tracker that actually is called quit on purpose. And what that means is if we have done step one and we've set a goal, and somewhere along the line, we've decided, you know what, I don't want to go after that goal anymore. We don't just let it like float away and erode that self trust with ourselves. We actively move it to a section called I quit this on purpose
Right.
to show our brain, oh, yeah, I closed that out and I did that with intention.
I love that. What's number 3? I have no idea.
The anticipation, I love it. Number three is that the goal is either too big or subset of three is it's outside of our control.
Ooh,
So
huge, right?
it's huge. They go together. So I will coach people um, with some diagnoses that cause limitations in some ways, some loss of functionality at times, and or the symptoms are big. If we set a goal, let's give an example of somebody who may um, have crippling fatigue or may be using walking assistance. If
Mm,
we set a goal to play hockey again, this is one of my clients used to play hockey. I mean,
yeah.
that's just not in our control, but what's in our control is our exercises that we do this week and the food that we eat and those things. So we just got to check our goal to make sure that it's small enough and it's in our control. And we have a strategy from the playbook, or it's a mantra at this point that
Mhm.
we say all the time, we can trust in the tiny because, there's tiny goals. There's the 2-minute rule that is out there. But the difference with trust in the tiny is that we're adding in the mindset piece of not only does the tiny habit work, but we trust that it works. So many times the reasons we don't meditate for 2 minutes or the reasons we don't worry about just one meal this week to improve is because our brain is telling us, well, that little bit's not going to make a difference. So,
Tr
yeah, so we start with that planting of that belief that I can trust that this tiny thing that I'm going to do matters. So when we're setting the goal, we also want to get it to a point that we are so super confident that we can do it no matter what life throws at us, so that we can start to see those wins and those consistency points add up.
So I teach the same thing. I mean, this I'm just listening going, "Yep,
Good.
check, check, check." So far so good, because like I said, I'm not a trained coach. Um, uh, is there evidence that the tiny does make a difference? Because someone might say, yeah, whatever, and not really believe it.
Absolutely. I mean, I won't be able to spit out direct ones, but a good example that I love is like, so if a plane takes off from LA and it is setting to New York, but you move the tip of the plane 3.5 degrees, which the naked eye couldn't even see, it actually lands in DC.
Right.
So those tiny shifts, those are happening everywhere, especially physically. I mean, when you look at any physical improvement in health that you want, whether that's stretching, strength training, cardio, endurance, balance, the amount of wins, even they start invisible. That's the crazy thing. We have to get really good about celebrating invisible wins, but time and time again, that's probably for my clients, probably where they are blowing their minds the most when they trust in the tiny is in the physical realm. And same thing with food. I mean, if we want to set this, you know, tomorrow I'm changing everything. I'm done with sugar. I mean, just ask ourselves how's that working? So I don't know the specific research other than consistency is I just think the secret of the universe. It's the sexiest thing that we can embrace.
Yeah.
And consistency is made possible by trusting in the tiny.
Right. What's number 4?
And I also want to say I love that it's overlapping. No, this is good. I love that
Okay.
it's what you because nothing I feel like nothing I say in this whole interview, I mean, I am pulling from the research. It's like we just all package it up in our different ways. And so I love that it's overlapping because it's
Mhm.
just finding a way that we're actually going to use it. Number 4. So number 4 and number 5 are from the research of BJ Fogg. He wrote Tiny Habits, the book,
Oh,
and
okay.
he is also a professor and he teaches on it and he researches habit change. And he says there are 2 habit change absolutes. So 4 and 5 are actually those 2 habit change absolutes. Number 4 is the goal has to be a goal that you want, not your doctor, not your husband or wife. It has to be something you deeply desire. Because if it's not, then over time, we're just setting ourselves up for a harder time. And so sometimes, let's say you think you want to eat better because, okay, I've seen all this that it's going to help with my heart health and my autoimmune health. It's going to help with all this. Sometimes it's learning and finding the specific why behind the goal that really calls to you, that really deepens your desire. Because the neat thing about when we have goals that we desire, think about willpower. Willpower, the word is power over our will. So people like, oh, I wish I had more willpower. Well, that's when we are asking for power over our will. Desire is another word for desire. If our goal is something we desire, then we're not going to need to power over it because we are going to want it. So that one's just checking in. It's just a check. Am I really clear that this is a goal that I want and not just being told that I should do it?
I'm just gonna say, check. So I have worked with so many patients over the decades who believe they should, right? I should exercise more. I should get to bed earlier. I should pace better. I should get out more, like whatever it is. And whenever they use the word should, I'm like, that sounds like it's an externality. It's someone or society kind of you're um, you've internalized the societal message, but I have no idea if it's what they actually want. So is that what is that what step 4 is about, trying to sort that out?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're deciding, okay, what's the first goal I'm going to set? I'm going to say, what do you want to do? Forget what you think is the healthiest, is the big, what do you want to do? Because in the end, you are going to start to learn the skill to change habits on whatever goal you pick. So it doesn't matter. That skill is the same skill that will be transferable into the other one. So if you, Ellie, the first thing you want to do is learn how to salsa dance or
I was just going to say it could be something fun then.
fun.
Doesn't have to be health related and grim.
Not at all. Sometimes when things feel heavy, sometimes I even do a challenge to my community in my coaching membership. I'll say, let's set a goal for fun. Let's
Yeah.
figure out, like I'll even say to my husband, what is a what's a habit that could make that could help you out? Because we look at connection, we spend time looking at connection. And the first few times I asked, he's like, oh, you don't have to do anything. He's so kind. I'm like, no, I want to put my habit skill chops on this goal that doesn't feel so heavy. And so we apply the same strategies. And so, yeah, I will say start where you want and just trust that you're not wasting time. You are learning the skill, all these principles that we're talking about, so that when you get to the one that feels like your Everest, maybe it's, dialing down sugar, or maybe it's becoming someone who exercises. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I remember what worked over here, and I tried this. And starting with the one that you want to will never be a bad move.
I really love that when I saw that question being asked on your webpage, there's like a questionnaire people can fill out to kind of orient themselves. And that was your very first question. And I thought, so I could make my goal be something not about health, something that I really want to do anyway. And it will benefit me because I'm learning all the strategies and tactics
Totally.
of habit building.
Yeah, and if I was your coach, I would find a way to tie in any goal you have truly will be about your health. Even if it doesn't seem like it on the surface, but you building that skill, I teach a framework, shocker. I mentioned those frameworks of the 6 key areas that we can build habits in that will help us feel better, help us function better. One of those is called the good stress, good being in quotes, because there is stress where when we give ourselves challenges, we grow through it. We get stronger on the other side. So anything that would be kind of in that fun realm, or that would be a good stress because you're learning how to do something that feels tough.
Wow. Okay. What's number 5?
Okay, number 5, like I said, is pulled from this BJ Fogg research, which is his 2 habit absolutes. Number 5 is it has to feel good along the way. So
Yeah.
emotions create habit. So this is where 1 through 4, I feel like I talk through with people like we spend some time together, we can get a really good goal. 4, or I'm sorry, 5 and 6 they take a little bit of time. They take a little bit of back and forth. They take a little bit of learning this new skill set. And so in order for a goal to feel good along the way, this is the whole thing that you hear about enjoying the journey, you're not white knuckling and depriving yourself, waiting to get to this point where, okay, I'm healthy, I've arrived. Guys, this is our game for life. So the more that we can love every day on the way to the goal, then we're not counting down to anything. We're present with what is. So there is again, I mentioned this ABC habit playbook. It's these 20 strategies that we mix and match for different goals so that we can set ourselves up so that we actually enjoy it. And we've already talked about a couple of them. We talked about trust in the tiny. So, sometimes if a goal isn't feeling good along the way, oh, maybe I went too big. How do I bring it down? We talked about reminders already. What sort of reminders have I built in so that I don't forget this goal? And there's 18 others. And
Yeah.
but finding a way that we enjoy the ride. We don't just set any happiness and healthy feelings for a future when that ball is just going to keep getting kicked down the line.
Yeah, that is so like it just kind of really hit me when you said that because so many people are like, okay, I'm going to do this hard, difficult, unpleasant thing, whatever it is, the thing I don't really like, so that I can get to this future goal, say better health. The thing about goals, like I teach a lot about neuroplasticity, and the thing is it's in constant flux. You never arrive. So as soon as you learn the habit and you say, "Oh, good, I've gotten it. Now I don't need to do it anymore," you immediately lose it.
Well, and we change. So just like you and I are going to have different habits and different ways of reaching them unique to us because we are different. I, me, I'm different from a year ago. I'm different from 5 years from now. And so I'm still using this skill, this how do I read where I'm at, where I want to go, and how I'm going to get there? Because this has to be really personal. And for some people, me included, I run challenges because sometimes what feels good is a kick in the butt. And sometimes what feels good
Yeah.
is, one of those, gosh, can I do this? With excitement. And so the opposite of a profound truth is also true. And so sometimes the best thing can be this gentle love, and sometimes the best thing is a little bit of tough love. But checking in with yourself, does it feel good? Everything that I use that term a lot of, let's find your feel good habits, or let's build your feel good food protocol, because that's going to be the litmus test of if it's the right one. Is we're going to borrow from the science of what we know can help, but that's just a starting point. We have to check in and see if it feels good for you. There's people in the world that kale makes them sick. I mean,
Right.
it's we've got to be individualized.
Would you also say, again, just letting what you've just shared sink in, if I'm enjoying the process, the end point is much less important?
Oh, yes, you may not even end up where you thought you
Right.
would,
And it
but
doesn't matter.
no, it
It's just
doesn't.
in enjoying the ride.
Yeah, like, you
Okay.
can use that goal as a lighthouse, to kinda get going in the right direction, but there are many times that we're like, "Oh, I actually," I'm trying to think of a recent one of, one of my, club members set a goal for, 3 days a week for this yoga class, and was just set, like, in the past, she loved it. She loved 3 days a week. Well, she got there and was doing it, and she goes, "You know what? I actually wanna take a walk with my friend this one day. My goal is actually 2 days a week." And it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm backing down." It was like, "Oh, I learned." Because that's the thing, is that when we work on these things, when we set a goal or on a coaching call, or, any time spent together, that's our best guess. That's our hypothesis to go get out and go experiment with. But you're a scientist when you're doing this. You're collecting data on, "Oh, do I wanna refine this? Do I not?" The best is that this kinda leads us naturally into reason number 6,
Okay.
which is that most people do not have a place to troubleshoot. I'm
Mm.
here to tell all of us, we will have ups and downs.
Yeah.
Life happens. We could be on track for something. I've had habits that I have made that are years, but then they creep back up, and it reverts back to what you're saying. The brain, that growth
Mhm.
is there. That habit is
Yeah.
there. And having a process and a place to come and troubleshoot, and the good thing about that is you're not starting over. You have so much gold in assessing what changed and what you're thinking went wrong to help with what the next step is. That's, I call it failure gold. That is
Mhm.
info that you can never hear on a podcast or in a book, because it's you practicing this stuff in real life.
And that brings up one of my questions was I my experience is it's really hard. I'm I would say verging on impossible, but obviously there's exceptions to every rule to achieve a goal and like by yourself without any so it's hard.
It's hard. I mean, it's like I said, every piece of knowledge I had to get from somewhere. I mean, in my lived experience.
Mhm.
So I think that some people do try to piece together a process by themselves, and it just can feel so hard. And the benefit of getting support, I mean, I think of it like I don't cut my own hair. I don't do my own taxes. I don't
Right.
like, there are experts out there to as a gift we give ourselves. And so I think one of the biggest barriers to coaching is this belief that they just didn't cut it. You just didn't cut it, or I should be able to do this, or I know what I need to do. But sometimes it's like, what about gifting ourselves that we don't have to be the ones to figure it out? And I really noticed this when people were joining the club, and I have a lot of professionals. So if you have professionals listening,
Mm.
there's physicians in there, nurses, therapists, PTs, pharmacists. And when other people see, oh, these are my medical expert team also here to get support, it's just this like wave of, oh, it's just that I maybe have set up a system to make it easy. Just like think of the things you love to pay for. Like I love paying for a massage. I love paying for my electricity bill. So
Right.
yeah, it's a little bit of a reframe there. And I pay for coaching. I mean, I say if you're asking, interviewing coaches or thinking of working with a coach, do they invest in coaching? Do they see the benefit of an outsider brain that can help us see what we can't see? I mean, we have some big old blind spots.
Yeah.
So even if I know all this, can people still point out to me things that I'm missing that I can uh, work through and gain awareness on? And like, just, yes, absolutely, every single day. So I like that. I like your
Most people probably go ahead.
I was just say I like your lead-in question to allow me to, you know, talk about my love affair with support and what a gift it can be.
And so I guess in a way, would you say you've answered the question of what are the common obstacles by sharing these six? Oh yeah, six reasons goals fail.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's
Okay.
within that, we can get more granular. So, for example, let's say, what do you think is a goal that a lot of listeners would have related to health?
I think number one, because most of my listeners have what we call complex chronic diseases. So things like myalgic, I mean, very familiar to anyone with MS, right?
Yeah.
You've just got less energy than you would like. And when you try to push, you crash. So I would say the number one, like when I, have events or topics, probably the number one topic is that how do I pace? So they know that pacing might help them because they've listened to me rant on about it for years, perhaps, but they have real difficulty putting it into action.
Okay, so their goal could be, let's say, they're looking at their day and they want to do 3 activities, but not 5 when they feel good. Is that
Well, this is where actually the mindset and mixed emotions comes in because actually they desperately want to do the 5 activities. They don't want to pace, but they know pacing is good for them. So it'd be maybe similar to diet. I know eating sugar is bad, but I like sugar.
yeah.
Yeah.
There would be a little bit of, like you said, finding the in
Yeah.
with their brain to get the brain to admit, "Okay, I will try this 3, uh, activity thing that you want me to do." There's a little bit of trusting in the tiny, right? There's a little
Yeah.
and we talk about this a lot in I teach the boom bust cycle and how, over time, b boom bust does not do these bodies good in any way. So, for that, one way to start is, let's say we get on board with, okay, I understand what Dr. Stein is saying, and I want to do 3 activities every day instead of 0, then 5, then 0, then 5. So we
I just have a question, a nuanced question. I wonder if the good goal is not to do the 3 activities because actually nobody wants to do that. And that was your number 4. You actually have to want it. Nobody wants to do that. Trust me, I've been in this for decades.
I'm trusting you.
But what they do want is to have more energy. So I wonder if that's the goal. And I don't know if you divide it up that way, that you've got the goal you want to achieve, and then you've got the actions or the strategies that might help you get there.
Beautiful
Okay.
segue into my two-part feel-good goals. So
Oh,
for
okay.
these goals, we do need a big picture goal. We do need one that is one we're reaching to. That would be more energy.
Hmm.
But then we do need to find the habit goals that we do today and tomorrow
Got it.
and this week. So we're kind of in that realm of figuring out what the goal is going to be that they're going to do to get more energy.
Got it.
And yeah, there's 9 million that we could talk through, like you said, food, exercise, all those
Yeah.
things. But it does sound like pacing is,
Probably at the top of the list because so many people have something called post-exertional malaise, meaning they just really hit a cellular energy wall
yeah,
and the crash is hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what do they? So they don't want the crash. So we would have to, I mean, different strategies could be, the min and the max, the what am I, you probably teach strategies about
Hmm.
how to do it. So let's stay out of what the teaching the strategies would be, but instead what gets in the way of them following your strategy.
Yeah. And how to help people buy into pacing. So even though they hear it and they can parrot it back, but they just don't want to do it. They don't want to have limited energy. They want to be able to live their day as they did before, with freedom to not have to plan every little activity and weigh, we call it the spoons, right? To weigh how many spoons they're using.
So the strategy that comes up that is useful for a lot of this, because you mentioned mindset, it's
Mhm.
called go to the root, and it would be looking at what belief is in there that is blocking them from doing the thing that they know logically would help them with their health and their energy.
Yeah.
And that belief may be something, everyone's maybe a little bit different. Like
Yeah.
if I've had this one before. If I pace myself now, I'm admitting that I'm always going to have to pace myself, right? I mean, I've had that constantly where I'm projecting into the future based on what my body is asking for now. And so it would be finding we call them belief seeds. They are
Seeds.
belief seeds. They are thoughts that we want to plant into our brain that
Yeah.
we will water it, we will nurture it, we will give it attention, we will tend to this belief seed until it can grow and become a strong plant that exists in the world and it becomes our belief that we know. And so everybody's maybe a little bit different. But if we believed, a good question for if you're listening and you have this where you don't want to pace, what would you need to believe to jump on board with this research back person I trust expert strategy? And it may be something like that doing this today is actually the way that I get more of what I want tomorrow.
Right.
And if you try on that thought and it feels like, "Oh, okay, well, now you have my attention," then we may show up different. We may feel different about doing less today. We may feel different about pacing if we plant the seed that, you know what, it's possible this gets me that. And the key part of when we plant belief seeds is we can't forget them. Reason number two, this becomes our goal is to believe that pacing is my new best friend. It's possible pacing is my new best friend. And we want to practice those repetitions. We want to tell people. I have people in that when we're doing, I have a community garden in our community where when we're working on a belief seed, you come in and you give a repetition. You share, I'm working on my belief seed that less is more and that counts and it strengthens that neural pathway. It strengthens that this is it. Now, the best way to practice it is to also pair it with a little bit of evidence you found in the world.
Hmm.
So pacing is my new
That
best.
they themselves have found, like
Exactly.
through their own experience. Because I could the research evidence is great, but if you've lived it, if you've had an example, it's much more powerful.
No, they need to find it. They
Got it.
need to find it. So pacing is my new best. It's possible pacing is my new best friend. If we believed pacing is my new best friend, imagine if you would pace. You would. Or
Right.
if pacing is the answer to more energy, if we believed that, we would pace. So it's planting this seed, and the reason I keep adding this, like, it's possible, because a mantra or, an affirmation that is too far removed, your body will kind of reject it. Yeah.
Yeah, it knows it's
Yeah.
not necessarily true. Yeah.
So when you're working on your belief seed, you've got to try them on. You've got to think them, say them out loud, and see what your body does. If you feel your body rest into it or get curious or get excited, my first belief seed, where this all came from was I realized when I was diagnosed, I believed deeply, like you couldn't have convinced me otherwise. I will never be as healthy and I will never be as happy. I mean,
Right.
on paper, this disease is chronic, disabling, neurodegenerative, progressive. And it was a coach
Mhm.
who's offered to me lovingly, that is a thought or a belief that doesn't have to be true. And that's sometimes tough to hear at that point, but I'm like, wait, so, because if I believe my life's going to be unhealthy and unhappy, I will create that.
Yeah.
So my first belief seed ever was, Amy, it is possible, just possible, or I'm open to believing that maybe my life doesn't need to be worse. Like, and that was good for my body because I wasn't telling it something that felt hard to believe. I could believe there's a world somewhere that I didn't have to didn't have to have a worse life.
Right.
And so what when I thought that, I felt curious. I felt
Like how could this happen? What would I have to do to make this possibility my reality?
and imagine the different steps I took. That's when I dove into functional medicine. That's when okay, I'm going to try this habit and I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden, I created 15 years later a belief plant that if you tell me your life is worse with this diagnosis, it's so strong that I'm like, you're wrong. Like, I appreciate you, but you're wrong. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I think that whatever language you can try on to open the door, that pacing could be your new best friend. That's Amy language, definitely. Or that pacing could get you more of what you want in the future. May be worth nurturing and maybe worth um, exploring how that could change up how you feel about pacing and ultimately whether or not you pace. Because I imagine the evidence will be you gotta go looking for the evidence too. I mean, you gotta be aware of it. So one of my trackers also has check that I did the thing, check that I did the goal, check that I found evidence for it, and check that I celebrated it. Because those are the 3 steps to build momentum. And so let's say you avoided doing the extra errand because you still had gas in the tank, probably your real tank and your body tank, but you decided not to do it, but you stayed home. And actually your kids were there and um, you were able to have an interaction with them that if you weren't there, that counts as evidence. Celebrate that. Or you woke up the next day, you're like, God, I do feel, is this more energy?
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I did it. Or, you know what? I actually didn't even need to go do that thing. Evidence. So find the evidence in the world because what you tell your brain to go looking for, it will go on the hunt for. So say, why is this good? Show me why this is good. And I love that they have you saying with such certainty that, they can borrow your certainty and then hopefully maybe one of these little strategies could help.
Maybe my last question, because it's flown by. You've just given us so much great information. And I have a sense what you might say to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because there's probably people listening that are thinking, well, that's okay for you. You have more willpower, you're more determined. And I have worked over the years with a lot of people who maybe self identify as having ADHD. And they believe, rightly or wrongly, because I don't know too much about it, that they have more trouble setting and achieving and remembering their goals than maybe the average person. So I just wanted to ask, like, are there people who genuinely struggle more with goals? And I sense that some of your strategies just kind of bypass that because it's not a head-on collision anymore from how you've described some of the strategies.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes back and forth. That's the other beautiful thing about support is
Mhm.
it's gotta be human to human, because when somebody's gonna raise their hand and tell me why they didn't reach their goal this week, I have no idea what they're gonna say. I don't have this, "You did this, we do that." Like, there is some real, learning about yourself that happens, and so, as long as people are willing, as long as people are s we label things like, "Oh, it didn't work." Well, did it stop working or did we stop working? Because this kind of fits in the troubleshooting arm.
Okay.
I've never had somebody who shows up that we have not found ways that they leave our time together confident to get back out there and try again.
Yeah.
And what if the whole time is trying again, and that's good? I mean, it's the goals may adjust, maybe we need to go tinier, maybe we need to try this other strategy.
Mhm.
One that's, one I love, so it's worth mentioning, one of the strategies is called More Me. Like, how can I make this goal more me?
Right.
And a lot of times when people feel, "Well, I'm different," then bring your difference into it in every way, and let's use that as as a superpower. Let's use that as a skill, and
Mhm.
it's really empowering when we are learning what our strengths are and learning that we don't need to go working on our weaknesses. Instead, we can lean into our strengths that are natural to us and actually use that as a strategy, and that falls under more me. So, I don't think that if we keep showing up, I don't
Yeah.
think that there is anybody that, um, this doesn't work towards. I mean, it's, yeah, I don't think so. I in the feedback, every couple times a year, I'll ask my members, what do we wanna change? What's good? Like, I love feedback.
Mhm.
You can't hurt my
Mhm.
feelings. I love hearing from people, and I ask 2 questions together on purpose. The first one says, "How much value are you getting from the club or getting from our work together?" 1 to 5. And then it says, "How much value are you giving, or how much effort are you giving?"
Mm.
And it asks
I
them,
love that.
yeah, it asks them right next to each other because, I mean, it just allows us to, again, to be a little bit honest with ourselves, and you'll see that they almost always match. They may give a 4 out of 5 for value getting, but usually the effort is like 2, 3, or 4. I mean, I never say never, but I've never seen where the giving number is greater than the getting. So,
Right.
like with anything, if we are willing to keep showing up in spaces that are designed to support us, then I mean, I just don't feel like we can fail because we 'cause we're doing it. This is the human experience.
This is it. This is it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's a great note to end on because it's a hopeful note. So if you're out there and you failed in your definition, because of course we didn't even get into a whole talk about language, but
Yeah.
say you haven't yet achieved the goals that you want and you want to work with Amy, how could people find you or get a hold of you?
I love you said language. Another strategy is called "Words Matter." So, yes, we could play on that.
Mantras. Yeah.
Um, yes, so, an easy way to, stay connected is I have a free quiz, and it takes a few minutes, and it's 7 questions, and it kinda tries to pull out what is your desire, what is the one thing that would be worth your time and energy to start? What is the first
Hmm.
goal to set? And it gives you a result with one of these 6 key areas that I mentioned, and we didn't go through them, but we don't need to. You'll you'll get your result. It may be food, it may be movement, it may be mindset. And, that's just a great place to start because on the back end of that, You'll hear from me. If you hit reply, I'm the one who answers everyone, but I also will set you up with some of the plays from the ABC Habit Playbook to help you start to formulate your how am I actually going to do it. So that's a great way. You mentioned I also have a podcast, Autoimmune Health Secrets, where we talk a lot about all of this stuff. I named it that because I think the worst kept secret is that habits can help us, live better and healthier lives. But the best kept secret is how to actually do them. So everything we just spent an hour talking about, we break it down and hopefully have some fun over there.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's leave it there. And to all the listeners, thanks for tuning in. We would both love to get feedback on how this landed for you, and maybe there was something that really resonated and you're gonna charge forward with. So thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me on the Dr. Eleanor Stein podcast. I hope you are taking away new strategies and ideas to improve your health and a renewed sense of hope. Join me, Dr. Eleanor Stein, for our next episode. Can't wait? Check out my website for a wealth of free resources.